Hey guys, so let's just get this out of the way right from the jump. Art, animation, atmosphere, everything on a technical level for Oden's Boiling was phenomenally handled, and and from what and if the preview is any indication, it's only going to get more like intense from here. And because of all that, this is this is once again a moment that I feel the anime has kind of improved on from the manga. Like, uh, don't get me wrong, their approach is a bit of a pacing issue. I'll talk about when we get to it, but on just the pure like visual level of recapturing the whole experience of seeing Odin being boiled. Like, I don't know if it's just the added effect of the soundtrack or voice acting, but something about the way it was handled in the anime felt much more visceral. Like, whatever immense amount of pain Odin was feeling in the moment, I felt like I was kind of feeling it too. Like, actually, like in the pot being burned alongside him. And I don't know, I could be having a little bit of an overreaction, but yeah, just the moment. But yeah, just everything about this episode, the moments of seeing like Odin's body breaking down from being boiled, it had it had me feeling a certain kind of way. And in the end, again, he's basically he's tearing himself up. He's doing in this moment. He's basically doing what he believes he can do. He's sacrificing himself in order to protect the ones he cares for and the country he loves. Like, that's pretty much at the crux of it. He's ever since his return to Wano, the only thing he's ever been focused on is protecting the citizens and the people he cares about. The biggest irony, though, weirdly enough, is the ones he's protecting in this moment are we're supposed to be the ones we're supposed to be his protectors. So it adds a little bit of extra context in the present towards the Yakuza 9's hardened ideals about protecting what remains of the Kozuki family. So yeah, a nice little bit of kind of showing how the protected have truly become the protectors now. Like, it was only after like it was really only after Oden's death where they pretty much truly started like living up to their name as the vassals of the Kozuki clan. And I think that is kind of interesting in a way. I think that is kind of an interesting little thing to talk about, how when you really look at it, the one of the biggest failures of the Yakuza 9 it was their inability in order to protect Odin. Like, they were the ones who were supposed to protect him, but he was always the one protecting them in the end. And again, going off something I said last week, but Odin like knew from the jump that he probably wouldn't make it out of this alive, but he allowed himself to become the sacrificial pawn for the purpose of letting the others live because they were the only ones who could carry on the fight. And I love how everything about Odin's how in this moment and everything about what Odin's doing, it's from actually igniting one last spark of hope to Wano, as even though from which even though from which even though as we even though at this point even though at this point Shinobu is going to be unable to save Odin, she still in this moment still managed to unveil the truth about Orochi as the frightened little serpent that he is. Because we as we learn, a lot of Orochi's a lot of like Orochi's motivations, his ideals, all that are just true unbiased revenge against those that persecuted the entire Kurazumi clan. And in terms of the backstory, in terms of what we learn of from which Odin's past and the persecution of his family, I'm gonna say the same thing that I said when I first read the manga. absolutely none of what we learn, absolutely none of what we learn about Orochi's past legitimizes or absolves every single action we've seen him take in the series up to this point. He is still very much responsible for his own actions. I just need to set that straight right out of the gate. But at the same time, I do think there is something to be said about history's role in all this as well. The past of Wano, as Orochi sees it, is bred purely upon the endless cycle of Wano and the Kozuki clan's hatred, like pretty much hatred and again persecution of the Kurozumi. And the thing is, it didn't need to happen. Like pretty much like what the only thing that was bred from the persecution of the Kurozumi was an endless cycle of hatred. And keep in mind, pretty much neither the Kozuki's or Kurozumi's actions are necessarily in the right, but they were so consumed by their hatred for the other that they never considered the idea of just talking to each other, of trying to reconcile, trying to understand what happened. If one of them, if the Kozuki had just extended a hand of reconciliation and talked to the Kurozumi, tried to form some path towards a brighter future for both of them, then maybe it wouldn't have led to this point. Like the paths of both Orochi and Oden are pretty much carved. Whether they know it, the paths they have chosen were carved by pretty much their history, and instead, but instead of just trying to reconcile this path in order to create a better future, both the Kurozumi and Kozuki just kept going, believing in only one path, and allowing that hatred to fester and grow for generations within the Kurozumi. But you want to know what the saddest part about all this is? Orochi could have actually been the one to break the cycle if he had chosen to do what his ancestors and the Kozuki ancestors, what the Kozuki and the Kurozumi hadn't done. If they had just chosen to extend that one single hand and sit down, talk it out, and try to work together towards a brighter future for Wano and what remained of the Kurozumi, maybe things could have been different. But instead, Orochi allowed himself to be swallowed up by that exact same cycle of hatred and resentment. And I guess at the same time, I don't want to leave Oden out of this too. I think like, don't get me wrong, Oden was just completely unaware of his family history, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily excuse it either. I think if he had just I think if Oden had just taken the time in order to learn just a little bit of history, I think he himself, he could have also helped in order to prevent any of this from happening as well. But because he didn't even bother to, but because he was so concerned about being free from his family legacy, free from any kind of responsibility, we're in the situation we are now. Again, if he had just chosen to try to learn a little bit about his family history, I think a lot of this could have been avoided. In the exact same way that Orochi had learned his history and been consumed by it, I think if Oden had just learned his family's side of the story, I think together they could have ended the cycle of hatred between their two clans once and for all. But as is, it just led them down the same path of destruction that was carried out for history's past. With that said, if I did have any complaints about this episode, it's that this is the first one within this flashback that felt like the most drawn out. it's like with it's almost like Prince Toei had used any avenue they could in order to make it so the boiling of Oden and his death would last for for an entire other episode. Again, it's not terrible, but the pacing did feel a little off in regards to this episode. But on the flip side, if the next episode is any indication, it's only going to be more visceral to watch and more painful. But more than likely, also have one hell of a heartbreaking ending. Like it'll be one of those where even though we know how it ends, Toei is still gonna make sure we cry in some way or feel some kind of emotion. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, AniList, Crunchyroll, and be sure to click the bell to get notifications, and just share this around. Death Knight of Enemy, signing off. Later, guys.